There are people who carry storms inside them, yet their faces remain still as glass. They move through the world with practiced smiles, nodding at the right moments, laughing when expected. But beneath the surface, something heavy pulls at them, unnamed, unspoken, meticulously hidden. These are the silent sufferers, those who have learned that pain is something to be managed alone, that struggle is a private burden, that asking for help is a kind of weakness they cannot afford. They do not cry out. They do not collapse dramatically. Instead, they fold their suffering into small, invisible boxes and carry them quietly through each day. And the world, distracted and hurried, rarely stops to notice. This is not a story about tragedy. It is a story about the quiet erosion of the self and the invisible cost of staying silent. They have mastered the smile that means nothing. It appears on cue, calibrated perfectly to match the social moment, not too bright, not too dim, just enough to signal that everything is acceptable. Behind it there is an ocean, but no one is invited to see the water. The silent sufferer moves through rooms like a ghost in reverse, fully visible, yet entirely unseen. They answer questions with pleasant vagueness. How are you? Meets, I'm good, thanks. The words are smooth, automatic, requiring no thought. They have been polished by repetition until they shine with believability. At work, they are reliable. At home, they are present. In public, they are composed. And all the while, something inside them is quietly breaking. This is not an accident. It is a skill, honed over years. The ability to partition pain, to compress it into something manageable, something that does not interrupt the flow of daily life. They have learned to schedule their suffering late at night, in the shower, in brief moments of solitude that no one witnesses. They have learned which facial muscles to control, which tone of voice signals normalcy, which gestures communicate that they are fine, always fine, perpetually fine. The performance is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance, an internal monitoring system that never sleeps. Every interaction is filtered through a single question. Am I revealing too much? And so they edit themselves in real time, trimming away any edge of rawness, any hint of need. They become experts at redirection, at turning conversations away from themselves, at making others feel heard so that they do not have to be. The cost of this artistry is invisibility. Not the kind that makes you disappear, but the kind that makes your pain disappear. People see them, but do not see them suffering. And because no one sees it, no one asks. And because no one asks, the silence deepens. And the silent sufferer continues, day after day, perfecting the performance of being okay. Silence is not born, it is taught. Somewhere in the early years, in the formative moments when a child is still learning how the world responds to their pain, a lesson is delivered. Sometimes it comes wrapped in anger. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Sometimes it arrives as a dismissal. You're fine, it's not that bad. Sometimes it is more subtle, a parent too tired, too overwhelmed, too trapped in their own suffering to hold space for another's. The child learns quickly. They learn that their sadness is inconvenient, that their fear is dramatic, that their needs are burdensome. And so they begin the process of editing themselves, trimming away the parts that provoke frustration or fatigue in the people they depend on. They learn that love, when conditional, requires them to be smaller. For some, the lesson comes through comparison. A sibling whose pain is louder, whose needs eclipse their own. They learn that attention is scarce, and to compete for it feels shameful. Better to disappear than to beg. Better to need nothing than to be denied. For others, the lesson is cultural. Families where stoicism is virtue, where emotional expression is weakness, where toughing it out is the only acceptable response to hardship. Pain becomes something to endure privately, proof of character, rather than a call for connection. Still others learn through trauma that was never acknowledged. Events that were minimized, dismissed, or buried under the phrase, "Let's not talk about it." The message is clear. What happened to you is not worth words. And if it is not worth words, perhaps it is not worth feeling. The child grows. The silence grows with them. It becomes architecture, an internal system designed to protect them from rejection, from disappointment, from the unbearable vulnerability of being truly seen. What began as survival becomes identity. The silent sufferer is born not from strength, but from the quiet, repeated message that their pain does not matter. The body does not forget what the mind refuses to acknowledge. Emotions, when denied expression, do not simply vanish. They relocate. They burrow deeper, embedding themselves in tissue and nervous system, becoming part of the body's landscape. The silent sufferer carries their pain, not just mentally, but physiologically, an archive of unfelt feelings written into muscle tension, shallow breathing, chronic fatigue, mysterious aches that no doctor can explain. Neuroscience reveals what the silent sufferer already knows intuitively. Suppression has a cost. The prefrontal cortex works overtime to regulate and contain emotional responses, a constant vigilance that depletes cognitive resources. The amygdala remains on alert, scanning for threats, unable to distinguish between external danger and internal feeling. The nervous system, chronically activated, never fully rests. The result is exhaustion that sleep does not cure. The brain's emotional processing centers designed to metabolize feelings through expression and connection become backlogged. Grief that was never cried, anger that was never voiced, fear that was never soothed. These emotions do not expire. They accumulate, creating a pressure that the silent sufferer learns to normalize. They mistake constant tension for baseline. They forget what relaxation feels like. Psychologically, suppression creates fragmentation. Parts of the self are exiled to maintain the acceptable surface. The sad part, the angry part, the needy part. These aspects are not integrated but imprisoned, locked away in internal compartments that require energy to maintain. The silent sufferer becomes a guard in their own prison, monitoring the gates, ensuring nothing escapes. This fragmentation extends to memory. Painful events become hazy, details blurred, timelines confused. The mind protects itself through strategic forgetting, but what is forgotten is not truly gone. It haunts from the periphery in dreams, in sudden waves of inexplicable emotion, in triggers that seem to come from nowhere. The silent sufferer learns to live in a narrowed emotional range, not too high, not too low. Just the middle, a flatness they call stability but is actually numbness. And numbness, while safer than pain, is also the absence of joy. The silent sufferer exists in a strange contradiction. They want desperately to be seen, truly seen, beneath the performance, past the mask, but they cannot bear the thought of being visible. They long for someone to notice, to ask the question behind the question, to look closely enough to see what they work so hard to hide. Yet when someone comes close, when eyes linger a moment too long, when a question probes gently toward truth, they retreat. The instinct is immediate. Deflect, minimize, redirect. The very thing they crave becomes the thing they fear most. This is not hypocrisy. It is the logic of survival, meeting the logic of connection. The silent sufferer learned long ago that visibility equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals danger. To be seen in their pain is to risk rejection, judgment, abandonment, the confirmation of their deepest fear that they are, in fact, too much or not enough. So they remain hidden, even as the hiding slowly suffocates them. The loneliness of silent suffering is compounded and paradoxical. They are surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. They attend gatherings, participate in conversations, maintain relationships, all while feeling like a hologram of themselves, present but not real. The distance between their internal experience and their external presentation grows into a chasm they do not know how to cross. They watch others share struggles, express needs, ask for help, and feel both envious and mystified. How do people do that? How do they risk being a burden? The silent sufferer assumes others possess some courage they lack, some permission they were never granted. What they do not realize is that many around them are also performing, also hiding, also caught in their own version of silent suffering. The paradox deepens in relationships. They choose people who will not push, who will accept the surface version, who will not demand depth. Then they resent those same people for not seeing through the walls they constructed. They want to be pursued but make themselves impossible to reach. They want understanding without having to explain. They want to be known without the risk of being discovered. The breaking point rarely announces itself with drama. There is no cinematic collapse, no sudden crisis that forces revelation. Instead, it arrives quietly, a moment so small it could easily be missed. A coworker asks, "Are you okay?" And for once, the automatic "I'm fine" catches in the throat. A friend sits beside them in silence, asking nothing, and the silence itself becomes unbearable. A stranger's kindness, unexpected, unearned, lands with such tenderness that the armor suddenly feels too heavy to hold. Or perhaps it is simply accumulation. Years of carrying everything alone finally reaching a threshold the body can no longer sustain. The exhaustion becomes louder than the fear. The cost of hiding begins to outweigh the cost of being seen. Something inside them whispers, barely audible, "I cannot do this anymore. This is not surrender. It is not a weakness." It is the moment when survival instincts shift, when the old strategy of silence, which once protected them, now threatens to destroy them. The silent sufferer stands at a crossroads they did not choose but cannot avoid. One path leads deeper into isolation, into the familiar territory of endurance and concealment. The other path, narrow and uncertain, leads toward risk, toward voice, toward the terrifying possibility of letting someone in. The crack in the mask does not mean it falls away instantly. It means light gets in. And with light comes the uncomfortable recognition of how dark it has been. The silent sufferer begins to see their silence not as strength, but as prison. They begin to notice the toll the relationships kept at arm's length, the joy they cannot access, the life they are watching rather than living. And slowly, with great hesitation, they begin to consider an alternate possibility, that being seen might not destroy them, that speaking might not result in abandonment, that the pain they have carried alone might actually become lighter when shared. The mask does not shatter, it simply loosens. Just enough to breathe differently, just enough to imagine something beyond the performance. The first words are clumsy. They stumble out half-formed, tangled with apology and qualification. "I don't want to burden you, but..." or "It's probably nothing, but..." The silent sufferer does not know how to express pain without minimizing it, how to ask for support without immediately offering an exit. They are learning a language they were never taught, and the grammar feels foreign on their tongue. They begin small, a text message to a trusted friend. "I'm struggling today." The words sit on the screen, terrifying in their honesty. They hover over the delete button, heart racing, before finally pressing send. The wait for a response feels endless. When kindness comes back, when they are met with care instead of judgment, something inside them shifts fractionally. Perhaps this is possible. Perhaps they are not as alone as they believed. But healing is not linear. There are days when they revert completely, when the old patterns reassert themselves and silence feels safer again. They cancel plans, withdraw, convince themselves that reaching out was a mistake. The shame returns. They are too much, too needy, too broken. They vow to go back to managing alone. And yet, something has changed. The silence, once comfortable in its familiarity, now feels different. They notice its weight. They recognize its cost. And slowly, despite the fear, they try again. They practice vulnerability in small doses, naming a feeling, admitting uncertainty, letting someone see them cry. Each time, they brace for rejection. Each time, they discover they can survive being seen. Therapy, if they allow it, becomes a laboratory for this new language. A space where pain does not need to be justified or minimized, where the simple truth, "I am hurting," is enough. They learn that feelings do not require permission, that struggle is not a character flaw, that asking for help is not evidence of inadequacy, but of humanness. The silent sufferer learns, gradually and imperfectly, that connection is not built on performance, but on presence, that they do not need to earn love through flawlessness. That being known, truly known, is not the disaster they feared, but the relief they needed. There is no grand transformation, no moment when everything is suddenly healed. The silent sufferer does not wake up one day completely unburdened, fluent in vulnerability, free from the habits of a lifetime. Healing is quieter than that. It is found in small rebellions, the decision to say, "I'm not okay," when every instinct screams to lie, the choice to stay present in discomfort, rather than retreat into performance, the willingness to let someone witness their pain without apologizing for it. These are radical acts, though they may look unremarkable from the outside. What the silent sufferer comes to understand, slowly and with great resistance, is that their silence was never a personal failing. It was an adaptation, a reasonable response to environments that could not hold their pain, to relationships that punished vulnerability, to circumstances that demanded they be smaller than they were. They were not weak for choosing silence. They were surviving with the tools they had. But survival and living are not the same thing. And at some point the question becomes, what if there is more than just enduring? What if pain, when shared, becomes less isolating rather than more shameful? What if being human means carrying struggle and allowing others to carry it with you? The silent sufferer learns that everyone is carrying something. The people around them, the ones who seem effortlessly whole, they too have their silent battles, their hidden fractures, their private exhaustions. Suffering is not exceptional. It is universal. What varies is only our willingness to acknowledge it. In this recognition, there is a strange comfort. They are not uniquely broken. They are simply human, doing what humans do, feeling too much, trying to make sense of it, searching for connection in a world that often discourages honesty. The revolution is not in becoming fearless. It is in acting despite fear. Not in eliminating pain, but in refusing to carry it alone. Not in perfecting the mask, but in gently, carefully setting it down. And in that setting down, discovering something unexpected, that beneath the performance, beneath the silence, beneath years of hiding, they were always worth seeing. They were always enough.